Dinar Shift. The financial world is now closely watching developments that some analysts suggest could represent one of the most transformative economic periods in modern history. A shift long discussed in hushed tones but now manifesting in tangible, reportable ways. For over a decade, the potential revaluation of the Iraqi Dinar IQD and a strategic currency adjustment for the Vietnamese Dong VND have been topics of intense speculation across various investment forums and economic networks. Yet, as the calendar has turned to 2025, the underlying narrative has evolved from purely theoretical discussion to one underpinned by increasingly synchronized and credible reports emerging from banking systems and regional economic observation centers. This elevated level of internal movement is capturing the focused attention of professionals who specialize in monetary policy and emerging market currencies, suggesting a serious preparation phase is underway that separates this moment from the countless false starts of the past. The significance of these emerging reports cannot be overstated, as they paint a picture of internal preparations that go far beyond mere rumor. We are witnessing what appears to be a crucial technical preparation cycle within Iraq's banking infrastructure, a period characterized by systemic adjustments and compliance testing. These activities are not public-facing exchange rate changes. Rather, they involve behind-the-scenes adjustments to placeholder values within the private banking networks. These system checks are the preliminary technical steps that financial institutions typically undertake to ensure their platforms are robust, compliant, and ready to manage a major shift in a currency's value before any public announcement or rollout takes place. Analysts familiar with these intricate banking protocols stress that placeholder values are essential for sophisticated modeling of liquidity, confirming the reliability of large-scale conversion processes and guaranteeing full regulatory readiness. For years, the flow of information regarding the Iraqi dinar was fragmented and often lacked verifiable substance, contributing to an environment of uncertainty and speculation. However, the current cycle is characterized by a notable consistency and depth in the reporting on these internal banking system activities. Experts are increasingly discussing specific technical metrics, with one widely circulated point of interest focusing on an internal test rate that reportedly approaches the 4.04 level. It must be made absolutely clear that this figure is purely an internal test value and holds no public or official standing, yet its discussion is significant because such test benchmarks often align with a nation's strategic, long-term economic aspirations. This structured pattern of activity strongly suggests that Iraq has moved beyond mere contemplation and into a technical preparation phase, a critical step that was not genuinely reached in prior speculative cycles. The context for discussing a strengthened dinar is rooted deeply in Iraq's immense foundational wealth, particularly its vast reserves of oil, which have long kept the country's economy afloat despite years of internal and geopolitical disruption. The currency's value has remained significantly undervalued in comparison to its natural resource base. However, the nation has made clear strides in recent years toward greater financial transparency, enhanced discipline, and a comprehensive modernization of its entire banking system. Financial observers point out that a stronger, more stable currency aligns logically with Iraq's overarching economic vision, enabling it to better leverage its natural resource wealth and project greater economic stability on the global stage. A historical perspective shows that the Iraqi dinar once held a substantial value, and a return to a stronger position is viewed by many economists as a necessary component for the country to reassert its influence within the Middle East and global trade networks as it continues its long-term reconstruction and stabilization efforts. The surge in attention directed at these internal banking system tests is directly correlated with a series of significant and comprehensive reforms enacted by the Iraqi government over the past several years. These key policy moves include the implementation of rigorous anti-corruption measures, a fundamental restructuring of the nation's banking sector, a considerable expansion of digital payment infrastructure, and a concerted effort to align its entire financial system with stringent international standards and best practices. Crucially, political and governmental leaders in Iraq have made public statements outlining their strategic intent to see the dinar strengthen over time, explicitly stating that the currency's exchange value should eventually reflect the nation's enormous underlying economic potential. When a government actively synchronizes its public policy statements with concrete monetary goals, the financial community naturally regards the internal technical movements with far greater seriousness, suggesting a political will supporting the reported banking momentum. A major strategic initiative contributing to this current momentum is Iraq's committed push toward developing a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. This is a government-backed, digital representation of the national fiat currency distinct from decentralized cryptocurrencies. The primary goals behind this digital transformation are to significantly enhance transaction transparency, diminish opportunities for corruption, and create a far more secure and efficient method for conducting financial transactions both domestically and internationally. The move toward a digital dinar is a powerful signal of Iraq's readiness for deeper integration into global banking and financial frameworks. Financial analysts observe that a modernized system like a CBDC inherently streamlines complex cross-border payments and simultaneously strengthens international confidence in Iraq's financial management. When the strategic development of a digital currency is viewed in conjunction with the persistent reports of internal rate testing within the banking sector, many observers conclude that the digital dinar initiative is not merely a technical infrastructure upgrade. Instead, they interpret it as a fundamental component of a much broader, long-term national strategy designed to strategically position Iraq for a significant future adjustment in its currency's valuation. This preparation involves more than just domestic policy. Iraq has been actively engaging with various global institutions and external financial advisors to facilitate the necessary updates to its financial infrastructure, enhance its regulatory transparency, and bring its operational banking standards into full compliance with international requirements. Partnering with external experts and global bodies is consistently identified as a crucial foundational step that nations typically undertake when preparing for any major currency or economic transition. Iraq's demonstrated commitment to refining its foreign exchange operations, strengthening its regulatory oversight, and modernizing its entire suite of financial tools strongly indicates a deliberate preparation for deeper and more substantial participation in the global financial marketplace. While the ultimate outcome of a currency revaluation remains a subject of ongoing debate among financial experts, these systematic and foundational steps are universally recognized as prerequisites that must occur before any substantial monetary change can be credibly implemented. The systematic nature of these reforms suggests a methodical and long-view approach to national economic transformation. Shifting focus to the Vietnamese Dong, Vietnam's economic trajectory diverges significantly from Iraq's post-conflict rebuilding efforts. Yet, its currency is also central to discussions about potential future shifts in global monetary dynamics. Vietnam has rapidly developed into one of Southeast Asia's most vigorous and essential manufacturing centers. The nation has successfully built up its foreign currency reserves, attracted significant international direct investment, expanded its critical trade partnerships across the globe, and established an increasingly indispensable role within global supply chains. Despite this impressive and sustained economic growth, the Dong's exchange value has remained relatively low. This sustained low valuation leads a growing number of analysts to conclude that the currency does not yet fully reflect the genuine, underlying strength of the Vietnamese economy. Vietnam's government typically maintains a cautious and measured approach to public announcements regarding its monetary strategy and currency plans. However, the nation's consistent and documented economic progress over the last decade has prompted external observers to seriously consider the probability of a carefully controlled and strategically paced currency adjustment sometime in the coming years. For many long-term economic watchers, the year 2025 is seen as a potentially critical inflection point within Vietnam's meticulously planned, long-term economic roadmap, where various growth metrics and preparatory stages are expected to converge. This perspective acknowledges Vietnam's distinct approach, patient, methodically steady, and strategically implemented over an extended timeline. In contrast to Iraq's rapid reform drive fueled by rebuilding imperatives, Vietnam's strategy has been to incrementally build its economic strength over a prolonged period. This involves forging new international trade alliances, continuously bolstering its foreign exchange reserves, and proactively encouraging the widespread adoption of digital payment systems nationwide. Each of these calculated improvements and policy shifts is consistently viewed as an integral part of a comprehensive, long-range national plan specifically designed to transition Vietnam into a significantly more competitive and robust global economic power. Consequently, when analysts discuss the prospect of a potential currency adjustment for the Dong, they are often referring to an expectation based on Vietnam's established public trajectory. Any such change, if it occurs, is widely anticipated to be a carefully planned and measured policy move, rather than a sudden or unexpected financial event. A captivating concept that has gained traction among long-term observers is the possibility of a dual shift, an idea positing that two distinct yet notably undervalued currencies could experience a strengthening phase within the same general time frame. This theory does not suggest a formal, coordinated, or simultaneous action plan between the two nations. Instead, it is predicated on the historical tendency of regional and interconnected economies to adjust in predictable clusters when significant global trade dynamics are fundamentally altered. For instance, if Iraq successfully implements its reforms and the dinar's strength increases, financial market attention may naturally be redirected towards other rapidly emerging markets that exhibit similar signs of undervaluation, with Vietnam being a prime candidate. Such a shift in global investor focus could potentially incentivize Vietnam to accelerate certain structural reforms in order to maintain its competitive edge in attracting foreign capital and trade partnerships. While it remains speculative and nothing has been confirmed by either nation, financial analysts suggest that this dual possibility is a significant element to monitor. Global markets frequently exhibit an echo effect, often responding to initial major regional financial changes in sequential waves. The fundamental driver behind these discussions is the verifiable fact that global currency dynamics are in a state of flux and are moving toward a more balanced, multipolar structure. A growing number of nations are actively seeking to reduce their historical dependence on a few dominant global currencies, pursuing instead a greater degree of financial independence and sovereignty. Countries that possess substantial natural resources or are experiencing booming industrial and manufacturing growth are increasingly pushing for their national currencies to more accurately reflect their true underlying economic power. Iraq, with its vast oil reserves and ongoing political stabilization, and Vietnam with its rapidly expanding diversified manufacturing base, stand as powerful, textbook examples of this burgeoning global trend. Financial analysts worldwide widely believe that the international system is entering a profound phase where historically undervalued currencies may begin the process of reclaiming a more appropriate level of value, driven by nations seeking a better financial balance and representation that matches their real-world geopolitical and economic standing. This broader movement provides a critical macroeconomic backdrop for the specific currency discussions concerning the dinar and the dong. To fully grasp the discussions surrounding the rumored 4.04 internal test rate for the Iraqi dinar, analysts continuously highlight the pronounced historical and contemporary disconnect between Iraq's abundant natural resource wealth and the actual valuation of its modern currency. Iraq possesses some of the most significant proven oil reserves globally, is steadily building its gold reserves, is showing clear signs of sustained political stabilization, and is successfully attracting increasing amounts of foreign investment into its key sectors. These factors represent a robust and powerful set of economic fundamentals. When Iraq's currency value is logically compared to the currencies of other nations that possess fewer natural resources but currently enjoy a higher valuation, the evident economic imbalance becomes strikingly clear. A prevailing viewpoint among financial observers is that if Iraq successfully maintains its current trajectory of modernization and sustained reform, a significantly stronger currency would be not only a logical development, but perhaps an essential structural requirement for realizing its ambitious, long-term national economic vision. The internal test rate that has been widely discussed and reported aligns closely with this specific type of forward-looking structural economic thinking, according to the consensus of many experienced financial observers. This discussion serves as a powerful indicator of the strategic planning being done behind closed doors. The persistent and widespread reports of internal bank screens displaying these technical test values, while individually unconfirmed by public officials, represent a pivotal reason why a critical mass of analysts believes a system shift is potentially approaching. These financial institutions undertake such comprehensive system checks to rigorously ensure that their complex software platforms, liquidity models, internal compliance rules, and large-scale international transfer capabilities can all seamlessly accommodate and manage a new, higher set of currency values. These system-wide tests are never initiated without serious underlying cause. They are routinely commissioned only when significant currency changes are firmly expected or are already in the final stages of technical preparation. While the presence of internal banking movement offers no definitive signal of an immediate public rollout or change date, similar patterns of internal preparation have been historically documented and observed in the lead-up to significant currency adjustments in various nations across the globe. Therefore, this activity does not confirm the certainty of the outcome, but it strongly suggests that a thorough and methodical process of preparation is actively advancing behind the public-facing economic scene. This internal activity is complemented by the statements and actions of the Iraqi government itself, which has directly contributed to the rising level of expectations within the financial community. Iraqi officials have repeatedly and publicly stressed the paramount importance of strengthening the national currency as a central component of their broader national economic goals. When a nation's governmental and central bank leadership actively and publicly addresses the long-term goal of improving its currency's exchange value, it is widely interpreted as a powerful signal of ongoing high-level policy discussions and active planning. Iraq has further deepened its international cooperation, significantly increased its financial transparency, and implemented deliberate steps toward establishing itself as a more influential and respected economic power on the world stage. These consistent, intentional movements, when directly combined with the advanced development of its digital currency infrastructure, all point toward a clear and deliberate governmental direction. The question of precise timing remains the most speculative and inherently unpredictable element within the entire discussion. Analysts acknowledge that many governments worldwide demonstrate a preference for implementing major financial and monetary changes around either the beginning or the end of their established fiscal cycles. This observation has led some to theorize that any potential currency shift, if it were to happen, might align with one of these structured administrative windows. However, timing predictions have a well-documented history of being unreliable and fraught with error in relation to the Iraqi Dinar discussion. Therefore, analysts are highly cautious, emphasizing that the ongoing structural reforms and comprehensive system upgrades are merely setting the technical and legal stage. They emphatically do not guarantee the specific moment of any final action. What remains undeniably certain is that Iraq is purposefully preparing its core infrastructure for possibilities that were simply not technically or logistically feasible just a few years ago. In Vietnam's case, the potential timing of any currency adjustment is perceived as being much more intrinsically tied to the continuous achievement of its predetermined, long-term economic milestones, rather than any sudden, discrete policy movement. Many observers are pointing specifically to 2025 as a pivotal year where Vietnam's planned expansion of international trade, its large-scale digital technology upgrades, and its strategic export initiatives are projected to converge. On a macro level, the global economy is continuing its steady trajectory toward a significantly more diversified and multipolar monetary structure, a shift that is effectively granting individual nations a greater degree of control and influence over their own long-term financial destinies. If both the Iraqi Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong were to experience a measurable strengthening adjustment in their respective values, within the same general, broad period, this collective movement could be viewed by historians as a tangible and significant representation of the world moving toward a more multipolar financial architecture. The foundational premise that these collective events could potentially flip the entire system is rooted in the very real and observable institutional changes that are actively unfolding right now. Iraq's meticulous preparations, its advancements in digital finance, its ongoing internal banking tests, and its comprehensive structural economic reforms are all clear and documented facts. Equally evident and undeniable is Vietnam's accelerating economic power, its continuously expanding international trade partnerships, and its steady patient drive toward widespread economic modernization. Whether the final outcome for these nations manifests as a major discrete adjustment or as a more gradual long-term strengthening of their currencies, both Iraq and Vietnam are demonstrably moving along distinct but clear paths toward what appear to be stronger and more resilient economic futures. The coming months and years will prove critical in determining the full impact of these foundational changes, and we remain committed to covering every credible update, every confirmed shift in policy, and every major development as these events continue to unfold. Remain informed and prepared, as the global financial system may be entering one of its most profound and transformative eras.